Another name, Jeff Peterson. Um, Now, this is an interesting one. We've been hearing this since the summer of 2023. Jeff Peterson being linked to Charlotte. Um, Now, what I've heard is there is some uncertainty if Jeff Peterson would actually leave Brooklyn to come to Charlotte. He's a very settled family. I think there are future opportunities in Brooklyn if he were to remain there to progress within the organization. And even though he is the name that I have heard the most, I think there's also some uncertainty about whether they will be able to pry him away from Brooklyn. So this is where maybe you start talking about how big does that, salary number go? How much decision making are you going to have? How much oversight? All of these things will be very interesting, I think, when it comes to negotiating with Jeff Peterson. But that is something that I have heard. The fact that his name is still being floated around to me suggests that the idea is not dead, and I think that is a suggestion that maybe this has moved in a positive direction.
Yeah, and like you said, there is clearly an upward trajectory in Brooklyn right now. Like Sean Mark seems like his job security is like relatively intact right now, but if this Brooklyn Nets team doesn't rebuild maybe in the way that Joe Tsai is envisioning, you would imagine that Jeff Peterson is kind of the next guy in line for that. And like you said, if his family is locked down in Brooklyn, there's really no reason for him to kind of go with this huge, like this, the undertaking that would be rebuilding the Hornets and resetting the culture is like pretty significant for somebody that would be doing that for the first time. So that might be the one advantage that somebody like Elton Brand or Travis Schlenk would have, is that they've at least like been in this position before. So there are many things that they're not going to have to adjust to per se, that someone like Jeff Peterson or Nazi Muhammad or anybody else that would take this that hasn't had any experience would have. But yeah, I think he would be, for me at least, like, and GM is such a difficult thing to like truly have a preference for, because we don't know like the inner workings of the decisions that are made by each franchises. Like what trades or signings or draft picks have been the most influenced by Jeff Peterson during his tenure with Brooklyn? We have no idea as a public, really. Like, unless like there are a select few reporters that have like strong sources within the Nets front office that probably know. But other than that, that's really it. Like the only things that we can really tell are for guys like Elton Brand or Travis Schlenk, who have like a public history of transactions. And other than that, like we just kind of have to infer. But from my inferences, Jeff Peterson would be like my early preference and favorite, just with the youth and the success or long-standing ties that he's had in Brooklyn. At least I feel like that's a good sign. Would just be a good thing to usher in like a new group of front office employees with a guy that's got some experience as a second in command, at least.